Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational spiritual magazine for women since 2006. And yes, 13 years later, it's still free because I'm on a mission to inspire women to live from the inside out and to live their most inspired life. So be sure to claim your free subscription at subscribetoaspire.com. So do you know that being an empath can actually be a superpower when you work with this part of who you are from a place of awareness, love, and connected to the core of your empath sensitivities? Today we're going to be diving into how embracing your divine feminine essence holds the key to claiming your superpower. Joining me today is Kerrie Wearing. Kerrie is a modern medium, passionate about connecting women to their divine feminine, empowering their sense of self, their creativity, and their mediumship abilities so they can live a life guided by love, purpose, and spirit. With her work spanning more than 20 years, Kerrie is the author of A New Kind of Normal, Unlock the Medium Within, as well as Wisdom of the Soul, How to Live Life Created with Love and Inspiration. As you'll discover, Kerrie loves supporting women with her Divine Feminine Sacred Academy and all the other beautiful projects that she births to the world to support women in living their best life. Welcome, Kerrie.
Oh, thank you, Linda. That's such a big wrap.
I was like, girl, I've been following you. So, you know,
thank you for having.
Oh, I'm so happy that you can be here. And I was just going to tell the listeners, we had to really do some wiggling around because you're in Australia and I'm here in Massachusetts and trying to align our time. So Kerrie is in the middle of the night. And I am so excited that you found that time to join us because I want my listeners, who are all women on the path of personal and spiritual development, to learn about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. And yes, it is the middle of the night. I'm literally sitting here in my pajamas.
Don't you love technology where we can all come together in a sacred circle, no matter where we are?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So one of the things, you know, I'm an empath. I'm an intuitive. I love when you said the claiming your superpowers. I feel like I finally found my own. But I want to talk about, before we dive into that, what I want to talk about is the word medium, right? Because some people are like, so what is that? And how did you know you were one, Kerrie? So take us back to when you discovered your gift.
Well, that was, I wasn't someone that actually saw the spirit world as a child. I didn't have psychic premonitions or anything like that. What actually happened for me was I lost a brother to suicide in 1995. And that grief experience really, like it does for a lot of people, lead us on a journey of, awakening of some sort. It shakes your foundations. And a friend suggested at the time that I read The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield.
Oh, yeah.
And that book for me just literally changed my life. Before that moment, I didn't even really have a concept of what the word spirituality meant. So it just, for me, it's something that I say I've learnt to do, you know, like it was a conscious choice of sitting in meditation groups, awakening those abilities and learning to be psychic. And this was before John Edward was in our lounge rooms, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was very much, I believe, because of my experience, that it is inherent aspect of the soul, that we are all capable of it. It just comes down to how much you want to nurture it and work with it. And we all have a different purpose for it, but the abilities to be able to communicate with energy and the energy of others, the energy of the spirit world, and feel that energy and make sense of that energy and understand it. We all have that ability.
That was going to be my next question, because when you said it was you learned it, I believe we just use different language, that we are all connected to this divine wisdom. That's just the phrase I use. And that sometimes just our signal gets dirty from all the muck we pick up over the years, but it's always there. We're never disconnected. So it's almost like a choice then of, okay, am I going to do the inner work to clear the signal? Is that an easy way of saying it?
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. And I do think, as I said, we all have a different purpose for it. So part of my purpose was, you know, using it to connect with loved ones in the spirit world, and that can be a, you know, to do that well, or to do, you know, if we connected to the divine source and someone's a healer, for people to do that sort of thing well, we do need to spend time nurturing it and honing our craft, so to speak.
So when you use the word medium, just for the listeners who may be new on the path, right? So does that word medium always mean being able to connect with the spirit world and deceased? Or are there other meanings to it?
It's a really great question, because traditionally, yes. And I call myself a modern medium because I actually believe mediumship is evolving. My senses and my connection to the spirit world tells me collectively that mediumship is evolving beyond what we know it traditionally to be, such as connecting with the spirit world, with loved ones, in the frame of people like John Edward. I think it's evolving beyond that to actually have specific purposes. And a really great example of that is if you know the work of Anthony Williams, the medical medium.
Yes.
Yep, and he specifically has connected with a spirit that he says is a collective energy of compassion since he was 4, and there's one conversation. That conversation is about health. So I think he's a really great example of where we're going to see mediumship go in the future.
And I've read one of his books. He has many more, and I recommend it to people. And all my friends just love that series because they feel like it's such a clear message. So when you first connected, what was the feeling like? Was you surprised, or was it a very conscious decision?
I think the first real connection that I ever had was really, I felt a lot of love in my heart. I can remember one day just having this amount of love in my heart, which I know now is my heart chakra, just a sense of love that I hadn't had before, just this feeling of joy. And then when I stepped into actually started seeing my spirit guides and visions and things like that, I was just excited. I was just, because it was something that I was sitting in a group to do, you know, I was just super excited. And I do say to clients and people I come across these days, if they're at that point in their life where it's all opening up for them, it's such a super exciting time. Like you're just like a sponge. You can't get enough information, and you just the experiences. I always say to people, just write them down. Write them down. Keep your journal, because for you to look back is it's a gift.
And what would you say? Is there a difference, well, I don't want to say difference, between empath and medium? So if you're an empath, it doesn't actually mean you're a medium, but they two can be connected. In your work with empaths, do you work with both empaths who are not mediums and have no desire to create that skill, or do you only work with the empaths who want to open that skill?
I work with both, and there's a definite, I would say that I'd be surprised if I met a medium that wasn't an empath. And let's just define empath as someone that does have paranormal sensitivities and has the ability, whether known or not, to connect with the energy of others and feel their emotions, feel their physical pain. And that to me is what an empath is that someone like being able to connect to how you're feeling, whether you're feeling confused, whether you're feeling back pain, whether you're feeling depressed and sad, and an empath has the ability to energetically feel that stuff and connect with that. So part of our work as mediums is we tend to take energy and transform it. We tend to feel that all happening in the process when we're making connections and doing readings. But saying that, if there's lots of everyday people that are not working in the energy field, that are not, just people going to mainstream jobs, they work in an office, their mum, they're all of those. There's lots of those people that are also empaths. I feel like it's a growing experience for people, and I come across lots of people in my work that are not mediums, that are people going about their daily lives in the mainstream world who experience empath experiences.
Yeah, I would agree, because I have family members that are, but they wouldn't identify as that because they just don't have the awareness as much as I try to guide them to say, hey, at least read this book. But I notice a lot of my audience with Aspire Mag are all women on the path of personal and spiritual development, self-discovery. And as I watch my community, I see more and more identifying as an empath. Do you think more people are identifying with that now because it's becoming more, I hate the word, but mainstream? People are talking about it more, so they're like, oh my God, that describes me. Do you feel like that's why we're seeing this big surge of the conversation?
I would agree with that, because it's one of the reasons why we see a bigger conversation around mediumship, and it's more accepted, and it's because the conversation is happening and the education is getting out there. So therefore, more and more people it's coming across their path, and more people, especially women, because women are more open to the conversation. So, I would agree with that it is an increase in awareness collectively.
Yeah, I can see more and more conversations. And we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, I want to talk more to help people understand what being an empath is. So maybe we can dive a little more into that when we come back from our first break. I'll be back in a moment with Kerrie Wearing, modern medium and best-selling author. You can learn more at kerriewearing.com. We'll be back in a moment.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm so glad you're here with us today. My special guest is Kerrie Wearing, author of A New Kind of Normal, Unlock the Medium Within. So, Kerrie, right before the break, we were talking about being an empath. Do you, when you work with clients, do you have a way of helping them understand what it feels like in their body or energy so they can learn to identify what an empath is in their own life?
Yes, because I guess this is where my mediumship can come in to these conversations, because if they're often they might be coming to me for they're feeling lost and they want direction. They're coming often for a psychic reading of some form, and when I come to their energy, one of the first things that I can sense is that whether they're an empath or not, and how much of an impact that's actually having, how much of that might be actually getting in the way of them moving forward in their life. So we'll have a conversation around that, because I've picked it up in their energy, and I can talk them through then how that sort of looks in their life. And, that generally is something that they would totally, once I've explained it, they would then totally relate to and understand.
Do you find that some women feel it's a weakness, or they label themselves it, but in an energy where they look at it as, oh my, I'm an empath, and this is why this happens, instead of looking at it as I described in your bio, as a superpower? Because I'm seeing that too. They're taking on this energy that is not good, that they're too sensitive to exist in this world.
And yes, I would agree with you. And you know what? I think that's because of the education that's out there. And this is one of the things that I want to change the conversation that we are having about empaths, because it's all about, I've got to protect myself, I've got to shield myself, I've got to stop it from happening. And for me, this is where I think we do ourselves a disservice by doing that. I think protection is a Band-Aid solution, whereas if we approach it from, hey, okay, I'm not in my power with it yet, and yes, I'm overwhelmed, but if I get to know that side of myself and embrace it, then I create balance. and it becomes a more natural experience. And that does mean by working to place boundaries, and it does mean by creating awareness around where your energy gets affected and changed, or will shift slightly because you've made a connection. But if we understand more about empaths and give people more power beyond the fact that it's just, oh, you've got to protect yourself, then I think it does become a superpower, as opposed to, oh no, it's not a great thing.
Yeah, and because when I read your introduction, I was like, I love the idea that it's a superpower, because I never thought of even myself in that way, but I can remember in my 20s and 30s not knowing what to do with the energy of how I feel and how I take on other people's energy. It wasn't until I did the inner work to realize I can have boundaries up to protect myself, but I don't want to have done boundaries up so much that it stops me from living, feeling, etc., and participating in life. So I found that balance for me. And so now I just say, I'm intuitive, because I feel like my empath, I'm going to claim the superpower role. It is a superpower, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I honestly believe, I know in a lot of my understandings about mediumship or empaths come from having conversations with my guidance source. So whether it's a spirit guide at the time, whether it's my higher self, essentially that part of me that's connected to the divine. And one of the things that I understand about empaths is that often an empath is incarnating with a soul agreement to bring healing into this world. And so when we protect ourselves and try and stop it, we're actually not honouring that soul agreement. Now, that may not be relevant for every empath, but for those of us, I believe, that are more spiritually connected in the service role, then it's highly likely that it is part of that. So to create balance from things such as boundaries and awareness, that's when we step into our superpower. And one of the things that we also don't fully understand, or just coming to understand about empaths, is it really is connected to the core of our divine feminine. It's through that aspect of our soul that our empath abilities exist, because it's connected to that part of us that wants to nurture, that wants to heal, that seeks connection in others. And they're all aspects of our divine feminine. So when we step into our divine feminine and work with that and get to know that in ourselves, again, we create more balance with our empath experience.
I love that, and I love how you bring the divine feminine into your work. So for those who may just be hearing that phrase or they're not familiar with it, what does divine feminine mean to you, and how do you incorporate it into your work?
It's very much, it's that thread of our soul, our consciousness that is associated with our creativity, our purpose. I keep hearing the word purpose. It's associated with our sensuality. It's associated with, there's a lot to it, but all of our sense of nurturing, it's the reason why we want to collaborate. It's that part of ourselves, and I find it's often the missing link to our ability to manifest successfully. So I bring it into my work. Personally, it's been something that's been growing and expanding in my life for the last few years. It's been something that's become really, really significant and important in how I show up in the world. And I just love the the feel of it too, being connected to that part of myself. Just, I've seen things like my sexuality expand. I've seen new love come into my life. And in my work, I just see it more and more coming into an awareness of women with it who are being more connected. And if we're not connected to things like our sexuality, then we're not whole. So for us to be whole on this spiritual journey, we do need to connect to everything. And being that it's at the core of our mediumship, our ability to connect with the energy of others, because connection is such an aspect of the divine feminine, to connect with, want to feel connected to other people.
That's been my experience. When I was an entrepreneur, when I first started, I was 92. I was so out of balance. I was pushing, striving, because I didn't own my truth and power, right? So I was always coming from a desire to please in growing my business, outside pat on the back, right? So I can tell, looking back, I didn't know it then because I didn't even have the language. I was so in the masculine energy, which we all need to be for certain elements. I'm talking about being out of balance. Then when I found the feminine path and that whole language opened up, I went so far the other way that I couldn't ground anything in reality and manifest and be grounded in my own body. And then about 7 years ago, I came into balance. So my businesses are based on all feminine principles. And then the foundation is the masculine. And everyone asked me, how did you do it? I said, I had to come into balance. Now, I didn't even know what that meant. It was just something internal that I felt that I was out of balance. So I love the idea that you're bringing in the divine feminine to help women reconnect with that part of themselves, because I think the world kind of takes that away, right? It's like push, strive, be superwoman, do this. I was superwoman. It almost killed me at 40 years old with a mini stroke because I was pushing so hard. So do you notice women soften into their lives as they walk this path?
Oh, absolutely, and that's been my experience as well. And I do think because we live in a society that the masculine is comfortable. We honor that more than we honor the gentle divine feminine. It is the striving and the pushing and the goal setting and the I've got to achieve, and it is all of that. So when we come into the divine feminine, you're right, we do sort of learn to sort of sit back a little more. And I know even for me this week, I've been really focused on I allow the universe to show me the next action. I allow the universe to show me what that action needs to be, for example. So the divine feminine does tend to sort of sit back and observe a little more. She sort of allows you to be. And I think part of that is because with that comes an increase in awareness. So you're right, women, we do tend to, the experience of it is that we do tend to sit a little more in it. We sit a little more in that space of just being. And
it's a different energy. I say feminine is all about being, and I tell women that's how they can tell what energy they're in. And the masculine is doing. And if we don't have a balance between the two, we don't feel in alignment. And so, I love this conversation. Let us take the next break before we go on. I'm going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment with Kerrie Wearing of KerrieWearing.com. Be sure to go to her website, check out all her divine offerings, including her Divine Feminine Sacred Academy. We'll be back in a moment.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The world is shifting. The divine feminine is rising. Women are being called to live, lead, and serve in full alignment with their feminine essence. Introducing Marsha Mariner. Marcia is a divine feminine visionary leader, licensed therapist, hypnotherapist, and carrier of the sacred feminine wealth codes. Marcia supports consciously evolving women to break free from their conditioned self, embrace their feminine gifts, and wake up to their sacred worth. By fully embodying their own beauty and magnificence, Marcia believes women have the power to collectively shift the evolution of the world. Through virtual and live sacred circles and supportive programs, Marcia serves awakening women by helping them discover their unique soul codes so they can say yes to fully embodying their sacred worth. Begin your transformational journey by visiting marciamariner.com.
Net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and today I'm speaking with Kerrie Wearing, modern medium and author of multiple books, including Wisdom of the Soul, How to Live Life Created with Love and Inspiration. So did you notice on your own personal journey to bringing more of the divine feminine to your life, did you notice even in business, because I work with a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs in what I do on the other part of my life, and how they explain it is, Linda, I'm trusting more. I'm not pushing to the point of, okay, divine, this is what I want, A, B, C, D, and never allowing themselves to receive that maybe something higher and better is meant for them. So it's like leaning into their business, still being strategic, but also, like the word you used earlier is what made me think of this, is allowing.
Absolutely, and I think part of that comes from the fact that we've probably got to a point where we've pushed so hard, but nothing's working. Because that's the thing that I see, and I know that was my experience as well, is that we sort of we keep trying, we keep pushing hard, but nothing seems to be. It's like we almost feel like we keep banging our head up against a brick wall, so to speak. And this whether it's a spiritual business or whether it's life in general for people, that seems to be a bit of the experience. And I think that comes from the fact that, yes, it's because if we can bring the divine feminine into it, we then come into our purpose a lot more easily. It sort of tends to just allow us to align to our purpose and our destiny a little more simply, to be honest. I think it does cut away. I know as I've come into it, things have just got far more simple for me. There just seems to be less struggle in the day, less work to achieve the same sort of goals. It just doesn't seem as complicated.
Yeah, it feels better. Like one of my favorite daily mantras is, thank you for a day that unfolds with ease, grace, and flow. right? And like that's the energy I want to live in and be in. And those are all feminine words.
And I honestly believe that they are the natural essence of the divine feminine. And I feel like it's the divine feminine that gives us an awareness of when to be in the feminine and when to be in the masculine and create action and leadership and be in your strength, you know. But I feel like the awareness actually comes from the feminine because we're, you know, we're women, and it's you think about it, you know, like we're all created from that and nurtured for 9 months from the divine feminine, you know. So it's a powerful energy to flow through into your life. And I guess one of the things I'd like to say to everyone that's listening is that this is not something that you have to try and connect with, or because there is an inherent part of you that actually knows how to be this. There is an inherent part of you that knows how to be balanced in your divine feminine and be balanced with that and your divine masculine. And all we honestly need to do is give it permission and call it forward.
I love that. Call it forward, because it is the essence of who we are.
Exactly. I can remember being, if I can have some time to share a personal story,
Of
but
course.
a couple of years ago, I traveled to Denver, Colorado. I've got a friend there, and she's married to a gentleman, and he's a part Cherokee Indian. And I was going there to connect with them, and he was going to take me through a vision quest. So they took me out into the Rocky Mountains out there, and we found a space, and I was sort of out there, I think, on my own for about 12 hours, something like that. And we'd set up a medicine wheel, and, you know, there were no facilities. I wasn't allowed to leave the medicine wheel of any sort, but I was out there to connect and have a vision. And I had a vision fairly early on, and it didn't, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. What's next? You know, you can come pick me up now type of thing. But there was no phones. There was no, you know, it's not like I could actually pick the phone up and call them and say, okay, I'm done. You know.
Yeah, it's like you were alone with yourself.
Exactly. And I'd had the vision, and the masculine and me at that time was very much like, okay, that's the purpose of what I'm doing here. I'm done. Let's move on to the next thing, you know. And then I had this moment of just going, okay, Kerrie, here, look, you've come to the other side of the world. You have nothing else to do, nowhere else to be. You are just in this phenomenal space. You're out in nature. You know, I had little things like little hummingbirds flying around, which we don't have here in Australia, and I'd never seen before. I was just having this moment of just going, just be in this moment. And I then went into myself, and I just called forward that part of me that knew how to be, that knew. I called her forward and said, you know, I just need you to come forward and help me through this, and just allow myself to be in that moment. And that was the very thing. Yes, I had a vision, but that was the greatest thing that I came away with.
It was that moment of, what am I doing? Here I am, pushing again. When you had just experienced this beautiful energy and presence. So it was like catching, but you had the awareness. That's the amazing part. You knew you were doing it.
Yes, and then I called it forward. So, and from that moment, I came away with a greater ability to just be, but I also came away with that knowing and the technique of, you know what, we can already do this. We just have to ask for it. We just have to go in there and say, hey, I give you permission to come forward.
I love that. And I love that the hummingbirds are surrounding you. I have hummingbird feeders, so to me it's one of the most precious moments when they come. But I can imagine to have that experience on the day of your vision quest must have been magical.
Yeah, and there was quite a few birds on the day. There was even a red tailhawk eagle sort of circling around up top when I was near completion. But I do enjoy, like, I've visited the US quite a number of times over the years, and I just do enjoy seeing the different aspects of nature that we don't have here, you know. I guess it's much like when you guys come here and you want to see a koala or a kangaroo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, let's talk about the work that you're personally doing, incorporating the Divine Feminine, because I know you have some beautiful offerings that you're invited to share. And we'll be back in a moment. I'm with Kerrie Wearing of KerrieWearing.com.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Ladies, do you suffer with chronic pain that prevents you from living an active, happy life? It's time to get the professional support to let go of the long-standing patterns in your body, mind, and emotions that are causing your pain. When you clear the emotional, spiritual, and physical patterns that fuel your pain cycle, you can live a pain-free, pleasure-filled life once again. Stop the Pain specialist Jacqueline Kane merges 15 years in private practice as a healer and over 30 years in healthcare with her innate wisdom and a multitude of healing modalities, including Bowen work, EFT, evolutionary meditation, soul clearing, and ancestral energy clearing to create unique, results-oriented healing protocol for each. She sees clients virtually and in her Connecticut office. Visit JacquelineMKane.com to learn more.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Me, a cat moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Kerrie Wearing, and we're talking about being an empath, the Divine Feminine, and how the Divine Feminine plays a role in claiming your empath abilities as a superpower. So what is some of the work that you're doing with clients now, Kerrie?
Well, one of the things that is just opening up in my world, to be honest, is working with clients to form a map of the soul. You know, I'm a big believer that we do have a pre-birth plan, that we do come into this world with a predetermined set of circumstances. There's a reason why you're born in the US and I'm born in Australia. There's a reason why we're born women. You know, we do have defining moments of destiny, and we do also have soul agreements. So one of the things that I'm working with clients at the moment is to sort of unfold that information and help them create greater soul alignment with their destiny and their purpose, and then working with them to give them the tools and the techniques to create and manifest and identify where are they holding themselves back with that. And that's a couple of sessions that we do that together. And I use my mediumship abilities to I guess work with the soul and its connections to the universe to unfold that information. And the other thing that I'm also doing is at the moment I have a 12-week empath activation course happening where...
I love the name.
Yeah, just just educating people and taking people through understanding their empath sensitivities and really sort of bringing the things like the divine feminine into it, and even the law of attraction and how that plays a role in our empath sensitivity. So there are a couple of things, but I do have something, because we've been talking so much about empath sensitivities, I actually have something, a freebie to offer.
Oh, yay.
Yay. And I have a 4-part video series for people that is called the Empath Survival Guide, and it's really sort of just taking a little bit of what we've been talking about here and expanding on that for people. So that's on offer for people. And if they go to my website, it's on the homepage. It's very much right there in the front page. They'll see that it's there, and they can just sign up for that, and they'll receive access to the videos straight up.
I love it, and I love that it's video because it's a intimate way of connecting, and you have a beautiful energy. So I want to invite everyone to go to KerrieWearing.com. So Kerrie, I know you do a lot virtually. Do you travel also? You said you've been to the U.S.
Yes, I do. Right now, I'm not doing a lot of travel. I've got a family member experiencing cancer right now, so that's sort of taking a little bit of a focus. But generally, yeah, I do travel a little bit, and yes, I have been over to the US and have been blessed to do some mediumship within near Boston, actually.
Oh yeah, right in my hometown.
Yeah. So that was a little while ago. I sort of do tend to get over to the US every few years or so. It's one of my favorite places.
Well, you'll have to keep us all posted when you come back again. And for anyone that wants to get more information, make sure you join Kerrie's email list at KerrieWearing.com. So we have some more time, and I wanted to ask, if someone is struggling with being an empath, if they're trying to find their way, I know you have that beautiful free gift. Let's talk about what are some strategies, tips, insights you can share if they are in that place right now.
One of the things that I often start with, and this is probably the very first thing that I do work with clients, is to take their awareness and just simply ask within whether they are actually holding energy that is not theirs to own. And it's just a simple question, like what I call a soul conversation, and just ask that question and just trust in the thoughts, feeling, and impressions that you'll receive. Like you'll receive a yes or a no. If it's a yes, if you are holding the energy that is not yours to own, then the next question would be, okay, where has it come from? And you don't need to fully really understand it unless you're someone like me that likes to know everything. You know, but so you can question it all you like, but the really important point is for you to actually let it go, is for you to just in your mind release and let it go and say, okay, I don't need to hold on to this, I can let it go. And you'll find that just doing that exercise, just as simple as it is, you'll create a greater lightness. So you'll feel lighter just even in that moment of acknowledgement and letting it go. So, because I'm a big believer in often we make all this stuff more complicated than what it actually needs to be.
Oh, I agree with that. I used to do the same, so I can really relate.
Yeah. And so just trust in the fact that your soul knows. Your soul absolutely knows whether it has connected with energy that is from other places, environments, from other people. It knows. And the minute you give it a voice, the minute you ask the question, it'll respond, it'll tell you. And the more that you use that technique, the more proficient you'll become at it.
So it's like learning to trust, too. For me, it was asking a question, but trusting what comes up, because mine will just, like, the answer will bubble up. That's a word I use anyway. Yeah. And before, though, I used to go, oh, my God, you just made that up. Instead of saying, that's the wisdom of my soul speaking. So what do you say to those who doubt what they receive as an answer? That's head and ego, right? That's the fear-based mind.
Absolutely, and it is indicative of the fact that we are not trusting within ourselves for a start. So over time, that spirit will guide you to break that down. But generally what I say to people is when it's an intuitive thought, when it's your soul speaking, there is a feeling that is always associated with it. There is a level of energy. So when I was sort of saying in that acknowledgement, in that release, you'll feel lighter. If you're receiving an intuitive thought, it's somehow connected in your gut as well. You know, there's a feeling of centeredness that comes with it. If you're connecting with the spirit world and receiving a clairaudient thought from the spirit world or from your spirit guides or any of that, there's usually a warmth or an energy that comes with it, like a blanket embracing you. So look for those things. If it's just your ego monkey mind, it's almost like the thought is empty. There's nothing connected to it. You know, it's just sitting there in the front of your mind with nothing else associated with it. So that's a good way to tell the difference.
Those are beautiful ways to tell the difference because it's like dropping down into your own body and being present.
Yes.
Well, I am so excited that you were able to join me today from your cozy nook in Australia. And as we were sharing, it's the middle of the night there for Kerrie. So thank you, my friend, for joining me, sharing your wisdom with my audience. It was a fun time, and I learned a lot, so I'm excited to share that with our listeners.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you and to share with your Inspired Conversation audience. And I know that you and I are connected on Facebook, so we will keep connecting and sharing.
Yes,
so
we will, my friend. You're welcome. And I want to invite everyone again. That's KerrieWearing.com. Be sure to go check out all the sacred services that she offers on her website. And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.